Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Tonight we have a special guest with us. We have Sam Kirsch of New England's own Abnormality. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jet, for having me. Nice to be here.
So, Sam, before we get into all the Abnormality stuff, were you born and raised in the Worcester area?
Yeah, for the most part. I moved out to Worcester when I was like 14, so I've been here for the majority of like my, development into an adult. But I grew up in Salem, Massachusetts, and that's kind of where I was born, and then moved out here. And,
that's cool. Like where all the witches and stuff are.
Yeah, that's how I found the darkness here.
You were born into it. Okay, so now I've been covering like the area of Worcester for maybe like the past 10 years or so ago. So it seemed to me that back then, like say like 10 years ago, it was super heavy into like the hardcore, crossover kind of shit, related bands. So you being right there in the area with all these bands, what was it like in Worcester, say, like 10 years ago as compared to now?
So what are we talking, 2006, 2007?
Ish.
I guess the first thing that I think of is that's like the year that the Dillinger Escape Plan really hit. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of that, like bands like Botch or Dillinger Escape Plan. That's when that like Every Time I Die thing was kind of coming out. So there was a lot of that around here. That like earlier edge of kind of hipster metal kind of stuff. But right about that same time, that's when Chris down at Ralph's started doing the Metal Thursdays. Mm-hmm. So, it's funny too, because the more I tour and the more I kind of get out, the more I realize how spoiled I've kind of been, because not only that, but we also, the Palladium, especially upstairs, and 2006 it was kind of going, not really doing the same thing, but they used to get a lot of underground bands through here. So I remember even going like as far back as 97, I saw Emperor 5 minutes from my house when I was 14 or 15. So I think that the metal scene around here has always been pretty good to me. I think that I've always had, relatively easy access to it. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, that absolutely did.
Okay.
And that's,
okay, good.
Well, I do remember that too. And, as early ago as maybe 5 or 6 years ago, they were having a lot of the more underground bands in the upstairs part of the Palladium too. And I know, this weekend isn't this weekend like the Metal and Hardcore Fest?
Yeah.
We're really big supporters, aren't we?
Yeah. As I sit at home, they had a couple of these. Catatonia was playing, and but that was really the only one that I really think I would have got to see. Testament. Yeah. But Testament's around all the time.
Well, I was going to say, in years past, you could go there and for hours upstairs, they would have a bunch of underground bands playing, as compared to one or two or whatever.
I remember going to the one in 2003, which was, I still have the flyer for it somewhere, but it was Dimmu Borgir right when they were starting to kind of hit their commercial peak. Nile, Catastrophic, Lamb of God before they got big, Malevolent Creation, Meshuggah, Shadows Fall, right as they were starting to get going. Who else played? Amorphous, Opeth, Gorguts, Skinless, Dying Fetus. It was 2 days of just packed bands, awesome bands. Mm-hmm. I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember too. I can't remember all those people being on the same bill, but I can remember going there, and I do remember definitely seeing Lamb of God there, and that was a good show. It's gotten a lot different since then, especially in Worcester. But I think clubs in general now, they don't get the same crowds they used to unless it's a big fest. And even at the Palladium now, the bigger bands, or bands that I would consider bigger bands, are playing upstairs during the winter, so it's...
Right. The bands that we would consider bigger bands, they get full-blown international headliners downstairs, but...
Right. But, right. As far as metal and stuff goes...
As far as bigger of the underground... I saw Nile do that double set tour that they did maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I saw that upstairs, and that was awesome. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I missed that one. But, so tell us then, Sam, what's the first death metal band you remember hearing, and what were your thoughts at the time, hearing these kind of vocals and all this kind of stuff?
Man, I want to say that it's Cannibal Corpse. I want to say that I saw Staring Through the Eyes of the Dead on Beavis and Butthead. But I can't remember if I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with that, and I think that my first thought was, this is pretty sweet. I need to get more of this.
I mean, even when hearing, like, those kind of vocals for the first time, your thoughts were like, this is awesomeness?
I want to say, I mean, like the metalhead in me wants to say yes. I'm not entirely sure. I think, I was pretty into heavy stuff before I kind of made the jump into death metal. Mm-hmm. So I was, I think that at the same time I was already listening to Pantera. Mm-hmm. And, so I was probably like 9 or 10. So I was listening to Pantera and Sepultura, some of the screaming stuff, not like a lot of that guttural stuff, but I made the jump into death metal pretty easily. It wasn't really, I think as soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm into this.
And right around that too, you were so close to having it death metal anyways. If you were listening to those bands, it probably wasn't a huge jump for you,
Right. Actually, you know what? The first one might have been that I heard the real guttural vocals on. It might have been that first Fear Factory record. Mm-hmm. That Soul of a New Machine. I'd be willing to bet that was it, because I was into Sepultura, and I remember reading on the liner notes, thanks to Fear Factory, and I was like, that's a pretty cool sounding name. And that was back when I think Sam Goody was still open.
Oh my God!
The Soul of a New Machine was like the only thing that I could find, and I remember that record blew my mind.
So when did you start playing guitar then, and were these like some of the bands that inspired you to want to play these extreme types of metal music?
I started playing when I was about 10, and I would probably chalk a lot of it up to Megadeth and Metallica. Mm-hmm. That's really when I kind of started playing. It took me a little while to, I guess, kind of figure out how to do death metal. The techniques between, buying tab books and learning Metallica songs and then learning how to play death metal songs, they're kind of, the songwriting structures don't exactly translate so well when you're, 13. It took a little while before I started really, I'm trying to think about that. Yeah, I think it took a little while before I started trying to, pick up Cannibal Corpse songs and things like that. Mainly because the internet was not so readily available at the time. Mm-hmm. And getting the tablatures for those things was really difficult. So you could, and I'm not really big into sitting down and figuring stuff out by ear. I can do it, but I'm like, I'd rather just Google search this and see if somebody else took the time to do it first. Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, those things were easier to find online. Mm-hmm. You could find some Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel stuff. You could find some Deicide things. But, you never knew if they were right or not. So I didn't, I've actually just really kind of started getting into learning covers a lot right now, because the internet is a wonderful, wonderful thing for that stuff these days.
And like you said, before you could just go Google everything, and somebody already figured it out before you could go on there. So are you self-taught then?
I started taking lessons when I was 10 for a very short period of time, just to get the basics down, and then I mostly just got tab books and started learning out of that. Probably so I started playing when I was 10, so probably about 15 or 16, I started taking lessons with a jazz player. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a jazz player by any means, but he was really influential in the way that I think about music, the way that I think about the instrument, the way that I think about songwriting and arrangement. Because he was he's a phenomenal guitar player, but really thought about everything very abstractly, and that was really the major thing. So, he helped me as far as my technique is concerned a little bit, but he really explained to me song structure, chord substitution, and how to appropriately move in and out of keys and things like that, and just the tricks, the writing tricks. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I just practice on my own.
And so what were some of the bands you were in that prior to Abnormality?
I played in a band called Forced Asphyxiation for a couple of years, which is another band that's out of Boston. I did a solo project called Ages in Oblivion that I put out a couple of records with that are independently released. I can definitely kick them your way if you want them. Mm-hmm. And then I played in a grind band called Faceful of Shotgun for a couple of years, too, back in the day.
And so how did you meet up with Abnormality and get the gig playing guitar for them?
We're both in, just from being in the Boston music scene. So when Ben left, they put up something on Facebook, said that they were looking for a guitar player. I shot Jeremy an email, and he sent me back a couple of tabs to learn. I learned the tabs, went down, did the audition, did a second audition where they they kind of like threw me in with Jay, like in a room with Jay, and was just like, just jam with Jay, and if Jay likes you, you're pretty much good. So that was, it was very intimidating. Jay and his resting bitch face, if you're listening, Jay.
That's mean, almost. Get in there. Yeah. Did they lock the door behind you too, Sam?
a little bit. Just throw the wolves.
So since you've been in there, I mean, it hasn't been, what was it, like 3 years now?
A little shy of that, yeah.
So what's it been like then being with them now? I mean, you've toured with them. I mean, do you have, what were some of your, like, most memorable moments of those 3 years, Sam?
Man, it's been, so, I mean, the last year we did, did 2 U.S. tours and everything, so, I mean, things have been this has been a huge shift for me. But being in a touring band versus playing locally, I think the major thing is that the show is probably like the least important part of your day. Like there's actually being on stage and playing the gig. When you're doing it locally, that's like the highlight. When you're doing it when you're on tour, that's the only time of the day when you're pretty much sure that everything is about what's going to happen. Like that's the only time of day where I'm actually relaxed. And then because everything else is just, you're driving to get there, you're unloading, you're trying to find parking, you're trying to find where you're going to put your gear, you're trying to find a place to eat, you're trying to find a place to sit down, and then like once you get up and you play the show, that's like the easiest part of your day. Everything else is just hectic behind that. And the band dynamics are different. I mean, everybody, you're not just a guitar player or a bass player or a drummer. You're the guy who drives the van. You're the person who's in charge of merch. Or you're the person who's in charge of keeping everybody's spirits up. Or like everybody kind of has a different role in the unit on the road. But I mean, the best parts have been like, driving through Wyoming at night. I would say like being able to go drive all the way up through Washington State and then down into California and do that whole Pacific Northwest. I mean, I really get to see a lot of the country. In a way that you wouldn't really be able to if you were just kind of doing the tourist thing, if you know what I mean.
And so, who are some of the bands you were playing with out on tour?
The first tour we did was with Soulfly, Suffocation, Lodi Kong, and Battlecross.
Wow.
Let's send a big thanks out to Battlecross because those dudes really those dudes were awesome. That tour knocked us on our ass. I don't think that we were really super prepared to be touring on a level like that, and Battlecross just kind of was like, you guys are cute, come here, we'll help you through this first 10 days or so you guys don't completely go insane because it looks like you're struggling. They were super cool, and I give them a lot of credit for like kind of showing us the ropes on how to tour on a level like this, so that was super cool.
Okay.
And then
go ahead.
Oh, the second one we did was, and that was Napalm Death, Black Dahlia Murder, Power Trip, Pig Destroyer, and Misery Index, and that was crazy.
So you got it down now?
We're not getting it down. We did. So I mean, the first one we learned a lot, and then the good thing is that all the lessons that we learned we put into immediate application on the second one, and it was significantly easier.
Okay, well that's good. That's a good thing. And so you guys signed to Metal Blade Records, and just about a year ago, I think it was almost exactly a year ago, like around the 29th of April, you guys released your second full-length album, Mechanisms of Omniscience. I'm going to say it right.
Yes.
Now, this was released like shortly after you joined the band. Now, was that album all written when you joined?
Oh no!
Okay.
Oh no! We wrote that pretty much right when I joined the band. Yeah. That was like, oh hey, cool, you're in the band now. We got 6 months to write this record. Good luck. Have fun. See you. Bye. I got jumped in. I got jumped in big time. I mean, I didn't really even have time to. When you're writing with a group of people, especially ones that have been playing together for 7 or 8 years, and you're like the new guy. I don't want to be like stepping on toes or anything. And I can be a really prolific songwriter, and I work really fast. So I didn't want to upset the dynamic of everything. So it took us a little while to get our flow, but we did it. We got it in.
So you're the new guy writing the lead parts?
I mean, yeah. I mean, but also, we're pretty much responsible for the music itself too. Mm-hmm. You know, so I mean, I think I wrote 3 or 4 songs on the record. Jeremy did 2 or 3. They had 2 others with Ben, the old guitar player, and then there were a couple of them that we did collaboratively.
So then what was it like for you recording now? I mean, it's like you said, you're like jumped in, okay, you're here, we're writing an album, and then like you said, well, within 6 months you're out recording the darn thing. So what was it like for you then now? Here you are, you got it all written, and now you got to go record with these people.
It was easy.
What was that like?
It was so easy. So we recorded with Pete Ruccio there, and Ruccio just went down. I mean, they recorded Contaminating the Hive Mind with him, too. So he's just got pretty much a mobile studio set up. So he went down, recorded the drums with Jay, and then just came back the next weekend and came to my house and just brought all his stuff over, and we just literally recorded all of my guitar stuff in my basement. Yeah, I woke up, I grabbed a cup of coffee, I walked downstairs, and, he's down there getting his stuff set up. We tracked most of my rhythm guitar stuff that first day, and then I think he came back 2 weeks later and we did solos.
So how long did it take for you for the whole recording, mixing, and all that stuff to get done?
I mean, to get the whole thing tracked, just based on our schedules, 3 weeks, but I mean, it was like, 1 day per person. Because it's just, it was like clockwork. It was unbelievable. And then to get it mixed and mastered and off to Metal Blade, I don't know, that was probably like another 6-8 weeks or something like that. So we had it in by, I want to say the 1st of October, but I think I might be wrong. And then, we had it into them, and then it was released 6 months later. So
that's about right, yeah. Now you guys released a video the latter part of last year. Where was that recorded?
For which one? For Mechanisms or something?
Yes.
We did 2 for Mechanisms?
Yes.
That one was shot at the director's studio, so Red 13 Studios in Framingham, Massachusetts, with Jim Foster, who's the man. That video came out. They did such a bang-up job on that video. It was like a 14-hour shoot with an extremely limited budget. And for what they were able to pull off, I was blown away. Like, even when I just saw the raw footage alone, I was like, oh my God, this is better than 90% of the stuff I'm seeing out there. So, thrilled with the way that video came out.
Wow. So how long did it take you guys to do that?
14 hours.
All in one day?
All in one day.
Oh my God. Yeah, so that gives me a whole new appreciation for that video now. I mean, I liked it anyways, and I thought it was really awesome the way it was filmed, and even how you guys kind of were like leading up to a little bit before it was released and everything, but damn, that's a long-ass day doing that shit.
It wasn't bad. They brought we had a cooler of beer.
Oh, okay. Well, that always.
Yeah, we had. I mean, it wasn't like we weren't working the whole time. So I mean, we had our torture victim there. A lot of the time was either the shots with him or having to do his makeup. Like we had a blood guy on set to do all his makeup. And, but it was sweet. I mean, Jim's studio is just essentially a big open 1 floor, not warehouse kind of mill space. And to do that, the torture room, I mean, he just dropped, tarp from the ceiling, essentially, and just made himself a little blood room, and we just splattered that thing for the day. It was pretty sweet.
The blood room.
Yeah.
So I see you guys played a few shows on the East Coast earlier this year, and now, of course, Malika has moved to Prague a while ago. So what's it like now without her here? Is it...
we're really just in writing mode right now. So it's relatively simple. When we're doing our, weekenders or something like that, or if we're doing a full-blown tour, she just winds up kind of flying back in. So, I mean, it's workable. It's not the end of the world.
So that's what you guys are doing, right? You said you're currently doing some writing. So what is it like? I mean, even when people aren't abroad and they all live around, the United States, everything is all sent through email and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm assuming that's what you guys are kind of doing now?
We will once we're at that point, yeah. Right now it's a lot more so we practice as a band Friday and Saturdays, and then Jay and I have been having secret practice on Sunday, quote, secret practice, end quote.
Not anymore.
Right. It's just easier for him and I to kind of, because he's got some drum pad. The way he writes a lot is he writes a lot of the lyrics and then kind of bases drum patterns around that stuff. it's a lot easier for just me and him to work some of that stuff out, rather than have a room full of people and everybody's throwing their ideas in. So he and I get kind of like a baseline for things that we want to do, and then the next week, Josh and Jeremy come down. Jay and I kind of show them what we've been messing around with, and then they start throwing their input in on top of that stuff. And so it just makes it a lot easier than rather have than four very strong personalities going at the same time. We kind of like compartmentalize it.
And so is that what you guys are doing for this year? I mean, do you have anything else coming up? Or are you guys just kind of concentrating on writing?
We have a couple of weeks allocated for touring over the summer. Mm-hmm. I think that we're kind of really holding out for the right move. Touring for us in our personal and professional lives has been pretty rough. So it's it's one of those things where if we're going to put ourselves in the financial hole again, it's got to be for the right thing.
Right.
So like I said, we have some time allocated. We'd like to get out and do maybe a week or two here and there. But nothing for sure. And if that doesn't, we're getting into almost May now. So if that's not on the books pretty soon, I think we're just going to buckle down and just record for the rest of the year and then hit 2018 really hard.
Now, do you have any other projects you have going on, or is Abnormality basically your only thing you got going on?
I got other stuff like floating around in my head right now, but yeah, right now Abnormality is about all I've got kind of going on. I like to write in different styles, but with this band, for this record, I'm trying to stay out of my musical comfort zone as much as humanly possible. So that really means like all the energy that I would have into writing, like being in like a stoner band or being like in like a doom band or doing some like mid-paced death metal, all of that energy and all of that inspiration is going into Abnormality right now.
So you have thoughts in your head then, like you said, of what you want this album to be like already, or right?
I have thoughts about how I want to approach it as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. I try to, every time I try to sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to write this like thrash song. Within 2 days of writing it, I'm like, well, this is no longer a thrash song. Because I like music to be, I like music to be malleable, but at the same time I like it to be straightforward. I mean, it's there's kind of this like strange juxtaposition that you can kind of go through with the creative process a lot, where you want to have structure, but at the same time you want it to be able to move and breathe in an organic way. Mm-hmm. I'm mostly, I have like a little black book that I carry with me, and I kind of make notes in there, but it's more like, oh, I was listening to this song, and, this band did this cool, like, triplet rhythm thing. Note to self, write a triplet rhythm thing. Write a long intro, write, a noodly left-hand thing, or, maybe today I'll work on writing some kind of, right-hand dominant riff. It's going to be more rhythms, like stuff. So, work with, I guess it's like a writing prompt. Mm-hmm. Start with that idea, but be open to the fact that your end result may not look anything like that.
All right. Well, then could we look forward to this within a year or so of hearing from Abnormality?
That would make me very happy.
I'm giving you a long stretch of time here. I mean, if you guys are writing now, and so it wouldn't be infeasible for it to be out within a year or so. But for people to get the exact information, times and dates and stuff like that, what's the best sites people could go to find out more about the band and what you got going on and follow you guys and all that kind of stuff?
Best bets are going to be our Instagram and our Facebook, as well as our Bandcamp, which are all going to be /Abnormality or /Abnormality.band.
There you go. All right, Sam. Sounds good. Thanks for taking the time out to come on the show and tell us a little bit about yourself and Abnormality. And we're going to look forward to new music from you guys within a year or so. And all the best to you and the band.
Thanks a lot, Jeannie. I appreciate it.